My name is Njeru. I'm having conversation with Olumayowa Okediran on the sidelines of the Young African Scholars Committee. So today we are going to discuss sort of the crystal ball of where Nigeria as a country moves on from here. And we'll let him introduce himself and say what he does and pick up the discussion from there.
Thank you very much, Alex. My name is Olumayowa Okediran. I am the Assistant Director of International Programs at Students for Liberty, which is a worldwide non-profit that promotes the ideas of liberty around the world. I am also serve as a policy fellow in charge of West Africa at the South African Institute of Race Relations based in Johannesburg.
Thank you very much. Nigeria's history is replete with military associationist movement. Do you think that that's the past, or it still has to confront the same problems as the peers in the region?
So you're right. You're right. We've had a history of military rule, and since 1999 we've transitioned into democracy and sort of built on that change. So now it's a different system. We've achieved some form of improvement in society, so freedom of expression, and all those things that come with living in a democracy. That's not to say that it's always going to be like that. So it's important, and that's why we do what we do with Students for Liberty, sort of help to keep people vigilant, to ensure that the freedoms that we have now don't just go away anytime soon. It's not okay to just assume that the changes that we've seen and the progress that we've made would always be so.
Nigeria has been ruled by the PDP for a decade. It's being ruled by the EAPC and the Buhari. But what are sort of the differences between these two parties and their rule and authority?
So, unfortunately, there are no really serious ideological differences between political parties in Nigeria. The political parties are not really, they're very generic. There are no ideologies that stand out. You can't say one is Republican and one is Democrat, as we have it. But that said, there seem to be some nuanced, small differences between both political parties, especially because of the APC had been the opposition party for so long. It morphed from the Alliance for Democracy into the ACN into what it is right now. So because they have been in the opposition, there seems to be a tendency to want to act saner than what we've seen in the PDP. The PDP assumed that they were going to be in power for so long and rest on their laurels and sort of became some form of corrupt monster, and we're beginning to see that sort of happen within the APC itself, especially with many individuals who were afraid of being targeted by the new APC government moving into the APC from the PDP, and so the political party, that's the APC itself, seems to be taking the form in which PDP used to be. So I hope that they'll realize that the same thing that happened, the same fate that happened to PDP could happen to the APC, and then sort of instigate some form of reforms within the party itself.
So Nigeria has like two restive regions, southeast and the north, northern part of Nigeria, where you have Boko Haram. So like it's we just want to understand the dynamics of the problems in the north and the south.
So, of course, you are aware about the history of Boko Haram and how it's become what it is today. Unfortunately, what we're seeing in both cases is the fact that the federal government has not been responding properly to these agitations when they start. They sort of wait until it becomes a cancer, and then it's now difficult for them to provide solutions to it. So they're not being really responsive, to when people start, grumbling. And for example, the way they've handled both situations so far has been has raised a lot of questions about the seriousness of the government in sort of finding a solution to these problems. But I see that some progress has been made, especially fighting Boko Haram, especially with the retrieval of some of the students, the girls that were kidnapped by Boko Haram. Some form of sense of trust in the government, as we now we begin to see some form of trust in the government by many people. Moving forward, I see that there's a potential for both conflicts will not go away. But what could potentially happen are multiple scenarios. There is one that could, of course, I'm not sure if you're aware that there's been a lot of calls for, aside from secession, in the East there have been calls for restructuring, which basically means going back to regions and breaking up, sort of merging the states and sort of breaking up to four regions. So in the next 10, 15, 20 years, there is a potential for the calls for secession to escalate, and that could force the federal government to sort of review the structure that we have right now. If secession happens, or if restructuring happens, there are a lot of businesses in Lagos that are run by people, owned by people from the East, and there are also businesses in the East or in other parts of the country that are owned by people from elsewhere.
The EAPC came in on a platform of fighting corruption. Has it been very successful on that front?
So one thing to note is that almost all governments, not only Nigeria but around Africa, talk about the mantra of change and the mantra of fighting corruption. Both, I would say that Buhari's efforts to sort of fight corruption have yielded some results. You would see, if you've been following the news, you see that we've had cases of millions of dollars found in closets, abandoned at the airports, and all of this were because people were frightened about being caught, or being found out. While that has been the case, since he became sick, it seems like the fight for corruption may have gone down a little bit, because of course the president doesn't have the strength to pursue all of this his agenda, because the agenda actually it's his agenda. It's not like the party. It's not like the party has like a lot of interest in fighting corruption.
I know it might be a bit preposterous to speak about succession right now, but Buhari has been sitting for a couple of months now.
Yeah.
So what happens in the next general elections? Does he seek re-election? Does he anoint a successor? What happens?
So it's very difficult to predict what's going to happen in the next general elections. But there is a scenario where there's a possibility of him seeking re-election, even though he hasn't really come out to state that he's going to seek re-election. A number of players have started positioning themselves to contest next elections, and we just have to sort of wait and see what happens, how that plays out over the next.
So who are some of these players? Are they within the PDP or
so,
are they within the...
Yeah, there are quite a number of them within the PDP and in the APC. The former vice president, Atiku Abubakar, for example, has been positioning himself. None of these guys have actually really come out to say that they're interested in leading the country or contesting the next elections. So many of this is just basically speculation. We would basically just have to wait to sort of see over the next couple of months what moves they make, and then make deductions from there.
Looking into the future, what gives you hope about Nigeria?
So I think that if we take a look at where Nigeria is coming from, you know, under the military regime, the sort of freedoms that we didn't enjoy, and basically what we're enjoying right now. That gives us some form of reasons to be excited about where we are right now in comparison to where the country was before. If we keep up, this, if we keep on this trajectory, where there's a lot of emphasis on the freedom of speech, the freedom of movement, and the country positions itself, especially by strategizing and moving away from oil, which is Nigeria's major source of income, and sort of starts to restructure the economy itself. The country will have the potential to sort of prepare itself against changes in the oil, the price of the oil in the oil markets, and potential declining demand for oil over the next couple of years. So it's very important that the country itself is sort of positioning itself and getting ready for the changes that will happen in the global market for oil, especially in the next few years.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Alex.
It was a pleasure speaking to you.
It was a pleasure.
We had a conversation with Olumayowa Okediran. He basically gave us a crystal ball about where Nigeria heads up from here, and all we hope is that Nigeria's economy and Nigeria's people continue to prosper and live up to the tag of being Africa's powerhouse.